To Burr Cash Flow Investors. And today we are talking about short term versus mid-term rentals. And we're talking about this topic because this is such a hot topic as it relates to it. If you are not a member of Burr Cash Flow Investors, make sure you become a member, invite your friends, invite your family. You can win a ticket for two, which is $1,000 voucher each. So basically, a ticket for two, you and your spouse, your kid, or whatever, whoever you want to take on vacation with you, for two people. If you invite you count as one, and then whoever you invite that joins the group, we give you an extra ticket. So if you invite 50 people, 30 of them join, then it's you get one, and then plus 30, so you have that many more chances to win. First prize we gave away was a full set of appliances. Trinidad won that. Second set was, I always mess up her name, Miss Amal, and that was a cruise for two people. So this time it is a airplane ticket for two people. $1,000 each in value, so that's $2,000. And remember what I said, we're building up to giving away a Mercedes, right? That's my goal. That how do we get so many people in the group that we say, you know something, it makes sense. As our marketing budget, we're going to give away a Mercedes. So we're on our way and we're building. So anyways, having said that, today we're going to talk about specifically about Airbnb and actually I should correct that, short-term rentals and mid-term rentals. So let's first understand what those two are and what are the differences. Number one, a short-term rental, a lot of people call it, I always call it Airbnb, which is you're going somewhere, you're renting it. In that short-term means anything less than 30 days is considered short-term. Anything more than 30 days is considered mid-term. Right? So, and then you have long-term rentals, which we consider a year, 2 year, 3 year. So all the stuff that we do, long-term rentals, we do 2 or 3 year rentals. Anything that we do midterm is going to be minimum 30 days or more. And then anything less than 30 days is going to be called a short-term rental. Short-term rental, there's a lot of websites that are there. Obviously, the biggest one being Airbnb, second one being VRBO. And then there is HomeAway, and there's a bunch of those type of website where you can advertise that. But obviously, the big behemoth in the room with that is Airbnb right now. When we talk about mid-term rentals, now you're kind of looking for a little bit different clients sometimes. Can you advertise that on Airbnb? Absolutely, 100%. Can you advertise that on HomeAway? 100%. What about VRBO? 100%. But ideally, with the mid-term rental, the business plan that you have is a little bit different. So what are the places where you're doing short-term? What are the places you're doing mid-term? And sometimes people say, well, what's more profitable, Andrew? Well, of course, if you have a very hot destination and every day you can charge a ridiculous amount of money, your short-term rental are going to be the most profitable. But not always, because what about the gaps? In some places, if you have more gaps, say you only are running a 60% occupancy, you're running a 65% occupancy, you're doing cleaning fees, then the midterm rental would be a great option. You ask me personally, with all the short-term rentals that I own now versus the midterm rentals, 100% I'm going for midterm, 100%. Now, mind you, because that's based on location, locations I have are called boring locations. Boring meaning that's not very exciting. It's not by the beach. It's not in the mountains. It's not something, oh my God, a sports event, right? These are everyday suburbs. Same exact thing in Florida, same exact thing in the Chicago market is what we're doing. And because I look at numbers. I don't look at one property that every single month makes, let's say, $3,000 a month net, right? Which is fantastic. But $3,000 is not enough money today for my way of looking at it. We're encouraging that for everybody in Mastery also. If you have the right set of circumstances where you can run a Airbnb, you do the real estate side of it, and we give management out. So I'm only doing that in A markets, meaning aspirational, affluent markets. In the Chicago area, same thing in Florida. We're in a blah, boring area, but in a nice part of boring area. So for us, happens to be Charlotte County, and the numbers over there on short-term rentals are phenomenal right now. And now, mind you, this may change over time. So you have to think about it. So when do you do a short-term? When do you do a midterm? So the basic rule of thumb that I'm using is, and this is kind of the template we've developed for Mastery, is that if on a regular rental property, if I'm going to make $500, $600, $700, let's say, per month, then on a Airbnb, I need to make at least 2.5 times that minimum. So let's say on a property, so there's a property I have here locally, which would make me about $700 net every single month after expenses, PITI, and all that stuff. And I have zero money in the deal. But if I'm running it as a Airbnb, then I'm doing somewhere around 3 times that almost, which would be about $2,100 to $2,500 net after all expenses. So now, in that particular equation, if I'm going to basically net out, say about $1,100, $1,200, $1,300 every single month on a midterm, but that is consistent, where day in, day out, it is filled, then I would look at somewhere around, let's say, $1,500 to $1,700 on a midterm. So why? Right? Even though the short term is more profitable, but there may be gaps. The other thing is the cleaning fees add up on a short term. So I may make more on a short term, meaning I may make gross rents maybe more, but by the time I subtract the cleaning fees out, then my net becomes higher on a midterm. So that is something that you have to look at, you have to play with, and go from there. Like one of my midterm rentals, the people that moved in, there was a set of people there. They stayed there 45 days. Now there's another set of people for 60 to 70 days, right? That is fabulous. They're there for 45 days. That particular town does not allow, this is in the Chicago suburbs, they don't allow a short-term rental. So I can't do a short-term rental. I'm going to do it by the book. I don't want to, I have so many. My goal is to get up to 50 as quickly as humanly possible. And the goal with the 50 is that 50 times 1,500 a month. So 50 times 1,500 a month, you do the math. What is the math on that? Do you know? I'm talking to you, man.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, so here, yeah, so he's saying, anyways, 50 times 150, 50 times 1,500, that's going to be, if it was 1,000, it would be 50,000, another 25, it's going to be $75,000, right? So to me, that's minimum. Right? That's minimum, because if I'm going to do anything, I want to do at scale. I don't want to do onesies, twosies. That's just not my way of doing it. So hence, we're doing that in the Chicago market, same exact thing in the Florida market. I'm like, how can I get up to scale where as quickly as possible? How do I make $100,000 a month after expenses? So what does that mean in the Florida market? Well, that means I need 1, 2, like each duplex. So each duplex makes $4,000 a month net after expenses. So then how many duplexes do I need? Well, it's simple. You take 100,000 divided by 4. What is it going to be? So if it was 2 a month, then it would be 50 duplexes. So for 4, it just means I need 25 duplexes. Boom. And that'll make you 100,000 net every single month. And that's the math that you have to do, that, hey, what is this? What is reality for me in my area? Am I going to do better with doing short terms? Am I going to do better with midterms? Personally, to me, if you do a midterm, what you can do is you can start developing something. So there's another website. It's called Furnish Finders. Right? Furnish Finders, if you are out in California, if you're out in a lot of different places, that particular website is very popular with traveling nurses. Then you have another thing that you could do in some of the areas that are right next to O'Hare, that are close to areas where you have a major airport, which is a hub. It needs to be a hub, or otherwise you can't do it. So in a hub like O'Hare, you can do what is called a crash pad for pilots and for flight, whatever nowadays the right word is, flight stewardess, flight attendant, whatever, purser, whatever they call that. Anyways, and those are male and female depending on, so you may have a 3-unit building, which that is all you're doing. So there's different ways of how to go about it. Here's the cool part about it. The cool part about it is that not just one way of doing is right. And here's what is interesting is this, right? You can do this in the suburbs right around here. We're based out of Oak Brook, right? And Lombard, I should say. Or you can go outside for 30, 40 miles outside, and people are like, well, who's going to go to the outer suburbs and rent an Airbnb? Guys, the rates are unbelievable and the occupancy rates are unbelievable. Now, here's the problem with this whole thing, that if you're doing midterm, you're doing short term, right? What you have to think about is, how do I get repeat clients so I don't have to have dependency on just your VRBO platform or Airbnb platform? What if sometimes they kick you out? What if there's a glitch? What if somebody complains? Those are things happen. That's normal, right? So the first of all, you have to think about, there's two pieces to it. One is owning real estate. That's the business that I'm in, right? The second is the hospitality business of this whole thing. I'm not in the hospitality business, meaning the management of it. Who's going to manage the app? Who's going to take the respond to emails and all that kind of stuff. So that right now we're not doing in-house. That is being subbed out to a management company that does that part of it. Now you're paying about 20% fees on a Airbnb. On a midterm, you're paying anywhere from 10 to 15%, depending on what they're doing, because on a midterm, they don't have as many touches with you. So ideally, what you want to do with a midterm is this. You want to contract with an insurance company. You want to contract with an agency that does placement of nurses. If you have residents that are coming in, all those types of things, because what you want to do is get it off the platform. So imagine being able to only getting 20 to 30% of all your midterm people from a platform like Airbnb or like a VRBO or Furnish Finders, and the rest of it you have direct contracts with insurance companies, with nursing providers, with different people. What that does is a couple things. Number one, makes you in charge, right? Number two, you can keep your occupancy rates extremely, extremely high. Number three, you don't have to pay all those sorts of fees. And those fees may not seem a lot, but they start really adding up. And one review, let's just say you have a clogged toilet. Like I had a property yesterday actually, where basically somebody flush some women's products down the toilet. Now, it's obviously any toilet is going to clog if you do that sort of thing, or if you have a kid's toy. There was another property where there was somebody clogged the sink. It's a brand new property, and somebody basically put grease down the sink. Now, these kind of things are going to happen. So you have to realize that, guys, there's a yin and a yang. It's not always like, oh my God, I'm making so much money with Airbnbs and it's just amazing, right? There's no such thing. This is not a lottery ticket, but it can be incredibly, incredibly lucrative if you do it right. So understand the difference between an Airbnb, understand the difference between a midterm, and then our favorite, which is the long term, right? We love long-term rentals. And every single Airbnb, every single midterm that we buy it with the single idea, which is 2, 5, and 7. 2 years, 5 properties, get all those suckers paid off in 7 years. So if you have 2 properties or 10 or 15 or 20, right, a good group of properties that is going to produce cash flow income for you, at least enough to meet your family's needs. Those, I believe, should be paid off, and you should not have to worry for the rest of your life. Hopefully some of those thoughts, some of those ideas make some sense. This is Andrew Holmes. Again, Burr Cash Flow Investors. Make sure you invite your friends and invite your family, invite other colleagues to be a part of the group. And hopefully we continue to inspire you, and hopefully you feel inspired as we do these every single week, 3 times a week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Talk to you soon.